Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Whole Magazine, episode 67. I am your host, Brandon, and I'm joined by Nathan. How are you?
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, nothing much. I'm joined by
Hmm.
RJ
Heyo. What's good?
and Oscar.
Hola.
Deported.
Okay. All right.
Deported. Well, I hope you guys had a nice little interim period. As we have seen, the production cycle never ends for the show. Right after we are releasing one, we're already getting started on the other. Actually, what needs to happen is we need to have episode 68's cut sheet and pre-production done on Monday. So you're welcome, everybody. Welcome to the company. Welcome to the production cycle. This is what we need to do in order to achieve a weekly release. We have an episode. We have a few stories for you today on the docket. Um, Concerns about Greenland. And we're gonna be dipping into a little bit of our Iran. And then
Yeah.
Alex Preti, and we're gonna wrap it up in a nice little bow. This one was apparently a very difficult episode to produce, but our production team works very hard. So we do appreciate the production team. And Nathan whipped up a wrong thumbnail for this one.
Wrong. Yeah. I don't know what I was thinking, dude.
But it's fine,
Yeah.
that's all.
I don't know where that
We'll do
number
it
came
live.
from.
We'll do it live. Greenland. This is a topic that has been talked about a lot all the time. We are we are doing great things here. Nathan, take it away. Go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna start just by saying I think everyone's getting it wrong. I think plenty of people that are TDS sufferers and people that are blind follow like plan trusters. I think they're all getting it wrong. I think all this really is Trump and the defense policy wonks that surround him pressuring the Nordic states to include Canada to increase their military spending so that they can patrol the Northwest Passage and, the freaking gaps up in Greenland more effectively as the waters recede, or not recede, but as the ice recedes, right? So this is all in an effort to stem Russian and Chinese influence in the region before it happens. Seems like it's going to work because if there's one thing to note about all of this entire exercise, whether there's any real money, extra money being spent in the future or not, one thing's for certain: Greenlanders are very upset with Americans, and they do not want to not be a part of Denmark anymore. Like that attitude has shifted. The anti-colonial, quote unquote, sentiment out there is it is changing. They're kind of coming to this conclusion that they're always going to be a lesser power. So whether they're beholden to the in the White House, whoever that is, in their opinion, or some guy at the head of the Politburo in Beijing, or some guy in the funny shaped building in Russia, someone's in charge, and they'd rather it be the king of Denmark and all of his ministers. So that's kind of interesting. I think a lot of this has been unironically a 5D chess move, but it might be an accident. I don't know.
Oscar?
Yes. Why do they want their loyalties to the King of Denmark? And what does the King of Denmark possess that all these superpowers don't? It seems it seems like their loyalty is just more aligned with Denmark and the country itself and their government. And I'm assuming that's because maybe because I don't know much about Greenland. I'm assuming that Greenland is a territory of Denmark or is associated with Denmark in some form.
Yeah, it's a protectorate.
Okay, so in what way does America have a right, or China have a right, or Russia have a right to seize Greenland, or at least have a opportunity to purchase Greenland when Greenland has no want or interest in being associated with these superpowers and only wants their loyalties associated with
Well,
Denmark?
it's all based on force, right? Now, the reason like we're out there is that the Danes asked us to get out there during the Second World War. They didn't want to lose any of their territory, so they allowed us to put weather stations and airstrips out there. and a lot of those became modernized during the Cold War. So that's why we're there, and that's why we have like an unlimited lease for the positions we do hold, which at this point is only two bases, and only one of them is actually being used. The other one's buried under the ice, like no more Camp Century. That doesn't exist anymore, because it was actually built into the ice, under the ice, the whole thing. So when that was abandoned, there's actually, believe it or not, it was nuclear powered. The whole base, it's Camp Century, and there's a puddle of nuclear contaminant water that's just pooled there under the base. So it's steadily shifting towards the shoreline. So it's like an ecological disaster happening in slow motion.
Oh,
So
that's fantastic. The forbidden
yeah,
slushy.
it's a weird situation, but so it's really just a might makes right kind of thing where if we leave and the Greenlandics say they want their independence, total independence from Greenland, the Russians or the Chinese could come in whichever manner they see fit and occupy it in whichever way they feel. The Chinese would probably come in with their big money schemes and their infrastructure projects, and then kind of ingratiate themselves into the state, whereas Russia might do the little green men thing.
Go ahead, RJ.
I think one of the two key
Mhm.
things I want to touch on here is the fact that Denmark, which obviously kind of just is essentially the head of Greenland, even though Greenland's independent in its own way, does not recognize Taiwan as an independent state. And they very closely follow China's one state policy,
I did not know
which
that.
I think is frankly just wrong. Because if you do any research into it, there was a whole rebellion in the actual state of China, the real China fled to Taiwan to escape persecution. And if we're talking about it, Taiwan is its own state and they are the real China when it comes to that. And another thing is Greenland has 1.5 million tons of rare earth element reserves. Aside from the strategic importance, that's huge. Considering China has like 90%, 95% dominance in rare earth element refining, like that's insane. Oscar.
I feel like I'm still not grasping something. So when you say Denmark does not recognize Taiwan as its own independent country, as its own independent state, right? Are you insinuating that it has some loyalty ties or opinion
Yes.
ties to China, right?
Yes.
And
Very closely.
when you mentioned the resources that Greenland possesses, and I'm reading through here all the strategic importance, all the benefits we could have by having Greenland, I still don't get why we even have a right to just be like, Greenland, you are now America's property, whether you like this or not. Like, and that's what I need understanding, because it feels like Greenland has their loyalties to Denmark, and as you just stated, Denmark has their opinion loyalties to China. But if Greenland doesn't like us, as Nathan said, I know it feels like that kind of viewpoint is shifting, but it still kind of feels like a majority does not want American involvement in Greenland, much less ownership. And I need help understanding how that is right. And also, Nathan just explained that it would be by force, and how that
Yeah, it'd be
reflects.
annexation.
Yeah, how would that reflect our image without it seeming imperialistic?
The United States swinging its big fat and doing what it wants to do to keep the world safer from people it deems as a threat.
Communism.
Is it necessarily correct? No, but that's what we do because we are capital USA.
Mm.
And so when you're a
Personally,
global
I think we need to
hegemony,
bring back the Red Scare.
when you're a
I don't think
global hegemony, okay, when you have influence across the a global superpower has AFRICOM, INDOPACOM, regions of operations. That is who we are. And so we say, I don't want that. We go and take it. Am I on board with the whole like strategic value of it and economic value of it? I see that. I do. does that mean our bases are pretty much useless right now? Like, we're not getting that strategic benefit right now with our bases there. The only thing we're missing, realistically speaking, is the economic benefit. Here's this, native Greenlanders. You're basically economically isolated from Denmark. What are they doing for you? What are they doing for you? And like,
No, that's
as if the world doesn't have precedence for people just grabbing shit. Puerto Rico, Guam. We've done it before, bitches. We've done it before. It's how we've gotten, I don't know, all of our U.S. territories. Like, you're mine.
I mean, we
And what
literally
ends up
have the
happening?
power.
It ends up getting better. It actually is a little bit of an improvement for that territory in the end.
Yeah.
Because guess what
we
they couldn't
literally
do
just
before?
have.
Join the United States military. Get a bunch of benefits after. So, if we want to make it like a nice territory, we're going to have some Greenlanders walking around the United States Armed Forces. Eating weird dried shark.
I would argue that it's a lot more paramountcy here because Greenland is such a massive landmass with a lot more economic resources than
I believe it's the
Guam and
largest
Puerto
island.
Rico.
Right. But here's another question, folks. Why has Denmark has had it for how long? And they haven't capitalized on that? Maybe because it's a pain in the ass to get any of those resources too. Maybe it's going to take billions of dollars to even get those resources out. I don't know, because it's a frozen, hostile wasteland.
Yeah, that's why it's not worth it. There might be a lot of resources out there, but it would
Hey
cost
guys,
more.
there's a lot of resources on Mars.
That's
Let's
more
fucking
economical.
go.
No, that's
It would
far
actually be
economical.
more economical to
Yes.
do than have to
Yes.
deal with the
Strip
incredibly
mining, the asteroid belt
ridiculous
would make a little more sense right now than
for the ridiculous
extracting resources from
hostility,
Greenland right now.
the environmental hostility of Greenland alone.
Well, it's also because like a lot of this stuff is under the ice pack or permafrost, excuse me, and it's too far away. The baggage trains you'd have to, it would be insane.
Yeah.
That it wouldn't be worth it. You'd have to build whole new rail lines, or you'd have to do everything by air. There's no like river routes inland, right? It's like, I mean, it'd be self. You'd have to use dog sleds. Actually, now that I'm like really thinking for a minute, it'd have to be dog sled trains. That doesn't make any sense.
To hell with that.
So
Just
you're not
regionally,
gonna
so
Greenland
difficult.
doesn't have resources per se. Greenland will be a resource gem after like the water wars hit. That's how bad it's gonna have to be.
Go ahead, Oscar.
I just wanted to jump on what Nathan just said there. We're going to have like Balto lead these dog sled trains. We're going to have Balto doing it. You know who Balto is, Nathan? Yeah, Balto.
No, who's it?
You never watched Balto? And you
I
ruined
don't
the
think
bit.
so.
You ruined the bit.
No,
Shame on you.
that's not anime, is it?
Is this one of those things from like your native home country?
Wow. None of you guys
Whoa.
have heard of Balto? That's actually crazy.
What is it? No, what is that?
It's a movie about a husky who dog slays, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it a
God,
Disney
that
flick?
sounds so gay.
What? Okay, Call of the Wild. You guys read Call of the Wild?
That sounds more familiar.
Yeah, of course it is. It's
Probably.
written by the same individual who wrote White Fang, Jack London.
Okay,
These
I'm
sound
looking
like
at pictures
furry
of this.
movies. Are
Yeah,
these
this
furry
looks
movies?
familiar.
Are
Yeah,
these
this is
furry
familiar.
movies?
I may have seen this before. It's just this is.
I'm
this
not talking about the.
no,
I'm
this
not.
is
I'm not talking about the crappy movie that came out recently for it. I'm talking about
no,
the legitimate book that Jack London wrote.
no. I've not read the book.
Okay, well,
They sound
shame
like
on
furry
all of
films.
you. We're gonna go right back to what I was gonna talk about. I think I see the potential. I see a part of me is like, okay, do you really want to weigh your options, right? You have the scale up, right? You have China, Russia on one hand, the US on the other hand. If I'm looking at it from an objective point of view, not from a conservative light or a liberal light, all these answers suck. But only one of them is the right one. And that's only because you see what China has done, right? And you see their, I guess, viewpoints on Taiwan, and you see Russia and what they've been doing for a while now. The logical answer is to have America be the one to do it. But I just wish it wasn't this like forceful
Most of them.
annexation of like forcing them to be a part of
Well, it's not gonna
America.
happen, right? It's not gonna happen.
I want
That's
you
great.
to think of this for a moment. We have a president and an administration who is very much with the shits, and he's all for putting America's interests first. Okay. And if this was some Democrat president, it would likely be nobody would bat an eyelash. No one would complain. Nobody would give a shit. Just like how people didn't give a shit when Obama was deporting hundreds of thousands of more illegal immigrants than Trump has in both of his terms.
Mhm. Yeah.
The fact that Department of Homeland Security, or the guy who's in charge of ICE, was still in the thing with Obama. So it's really the same people, but no one batted an eyelash when Obama was doing it. But now everyone's up in a tizzy because Trump's doing it. So it has nothing really to do with people's real concerns and their actual holistic input on the whole situation. It has everything to do with who is the guy sitting in the Oval Office. Oh, it's that guy? Okay, so it must be bad. It must be
Is
bad.
Trump bad?
Trump is behind in deportations than
Yeah,
Obama
but
was.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fact.
Obama
100%.
had more deportations in this point in his second term than Trump has. And the ICE official, the lead ICE official, is the same Homan, same guy. But now he's entering enemy number one because it's the Trump administration. This is what they do. It is selective outrage. It is selective outrage. They look at identity politics. They look at who is doing what. The who. They don't give a about the what. It's the who is doing it, and that's the problem. So the problem is Trump is making big money moves for the United States people and the country and our standing and our national security, both domestically and across seas. And people have a problem with it because he is doing it.
If you sorry,
100%.
the
I think
I
that,
did
like, look, I don't agree with everything Trump does. I don't agree with everything that he does, but I do agree with the fact that, ICE is something that is necessary. And I think I think the dead set call from the left on abolish ICE is just absolutely stupid, because what they're calling for is complete removal of internal immigration enforcement. Like, we'd have border patrol, but border patrol can only do so much. As much as I think that, they're effective in what they do in certain areas, it's not going to fix everything. And because I think it's like 100-mile radius or 100-mile distance from the border is what their range of authority is. So 100 miles, it's 1,000 miles just from the north side of Atlanta up to Michigan. Like, there's there's hundreds of thousands of square miles that would be completely unattested as long as you make it past that point for border patrol. So the call for abolishing ICE is just wrong. Sure, reform. I'll support reform. I'll support, harsher,
Yeah, reform.
repercussions
They
for
need
people
more of
that
them.
do wrong things. We need reform on a lot of things in this country. And I completely support reforms of ICE and what needs to happen to make ICE better. But abolishing ICE is the wrong call entirely.
Hey, folks.
Sorry.
why'd you do that?
A side little note here. There's a lot of few things that we hear which we need to address pretty swiftly. The why is illegal immigration a big deal? Everyone throws around the whole, they steal jobs. It's an economic impact. While that is true, fundamentally true, the biggest concern is that illegal immigrants are voting in elections. Illegal immigrants vote in elections. And Democrats and libs love to say that, no, that's not true. That's a lie, blah, blah, blah. There is a list of states that allow illegal immigrants to vote because they don't require any form of ID or significant ID to verify citizenship. They give out driver's licenses to illegal immigrants, which typically requires a form of ID other than your utility bill. By the way, some states just require a utility bill to allow you to vote, to prove residency. That is the bar. And is it any coincidence that all these states are Democrat states? Is that not a coincidence, folks? The liberal and Democrat elite screaming from the rooftops saying that, no, it's so wrong that we're deporting people. No, it's so bad. Maybe there's ulterior motives. Maybe it's because they don't actually care about you or your lives. And instead, they care about their voter base, which they are importing in through less than just fundamentally legal means. They are voting in our elections, and this is not okay. To hell with the economic impact, blah, blah, blah. Tired. They are voting in elections. You listeners, and you're a Democrat and you're liberal, and if you hear that and you can't agree that it's wrong for these people to be voting in our elections, you've lost the plot. I recommend you go walk into your local office and remove yourself from the voting registry because you don't understand that that's a problem. That's just my suggestion. Take it away, Nate.
Just wanted to circle back to the Greenland bit, but keeping in mind the comments you made about Obama. The fact is, what Trump's doing here is disengaging from Europe and asking European partners to share more of the burden that we have traditionally held for them for the last ish years. And this is in like lockstep with the pivot to Asia that started with the Obama administration. So think about this. Between Obama, Trump 1, Biden, and Trump 2, so that's 4 admins, all 4 of them have not readjusted or repivoted back from Asia. We've been pivoting towards Asia this whole time at different speeds for different reasons, different methods, but it's still been the same thing. Washington, the Pentagon, the policy wonks, they all kind of understand that implicitly China is very important and more important than other threats in other regions. It's going to be the primary. So I just there's no chance that this was anything other than a pressure tool. You know, it's the art of the deal.
Yeah.
They'll tell them to tell them something unrealistic, get something you really want.
He
but
wants
it's that
something out of it, and so you threaten with an extreme to get the thing you want.
Mhm. Yeah.
We're probably not even privy to closed-door conversations are probably actively happening with that.
Some.
Ultimately, Greenland.
True.
I don't care. I think our current standing in Greenland as it is fine. I think the bases we have there are fine. They're doing a job. They're doing a very specific job, and they're doing it well. Can we go ahead and omit those rare earth metals? Yeah, I don't care. Who's going to dig them up?
Nobody.
What company is going to start that up and go out there and mine for billions and billions of dollars to start it up? Nobody. No one. No one's doing it. That's why Denmark's not doing it. There's no other startup company that's going out there and mining these resources. So who cares? Who cares? They can just go ahead and eat their dried shark and just like relax and just chill, literally, because it's so cold.
I'd live there.
Personally, I think that I think it's very strategic. I don't think we should annex them, but I don't think there should be any Chinese influence in Greenland at all, because they have their Polar Silk Road initiative, which includes the Arctic and Greenland. And with the ice caps melting from climate change, China can do something completely unprecedented, which started a few years ago. They can go off the coast of China and they can go north and they can pass through the Bering Strait straight into the Arctic and go around the Arctic straight to Greenland and the UK. And I think that it depends on how you look at it. I think it's good for trade, but it significantly shortens the travel time. They don't have to go all the way around the Pacific and through the Suez, and they can just go straight through there. I think that there are probably Chinese strategies that would be used if there was some sort of an attack on U.S. soil that we would not be ready for if there were more Chinese influence within the Arctic. I mean, they made a bid in 2016, I believe, to acquire a decommissioned Danish deepwater base, and I'm so glad that that was shot down because that would be terrible strategically for the U.S. There was a bid in 2018 to acquire 3 airports to invest in, to repair and substantiate operations at, but fears of dual use was a major thing, and U.S. lobbying prevented that from happening. There's so much going on in Greenland strategically that's not seen because China will acquire these things through companies, and it's like, oh, well, it's a Chinese company, it's not a big deal. You can't forget the fact that the regime in China will just straight up use these companies essentially as a shell company to substantiate their military efforts. They will do that. They don't give a about international law or what sort of things that is deemed normal. For us, it's like, oh, well, using a shell company in the US to substantiate military efforts, that's odd. Why would we do that? We can just do it. China will play the sneaky games. They don't care. They'll set up a company in Greenland. And it's like, oh, well, let's say they acquired the Danish deepwater base, right? And they start doing shipping efforts and, they're doing fishing in the area. What if they start putting in cargo containers mixed in with everything else that are full of one-way drones? Those drones will go from Greenland, will have the range to go from Greenland and go down to the northernmost states. And with spy satellites, they can identify, targeting for air defense systems. They did it in Iran. They quite literally this past week, they used a Chinese spy satellite to identify Patriot locations within, I believe it was Iraq or Saudi Arabia, and identify targets for Iran for missile strikes. They will do it. They don't give a I don't think any sort of Chinese influence in Greenland is good for the U.S. in any sense.
I think there's a
Valid.
solution here we're missing for Greenland. Nathan, how do you think we just go band for band with Greenland?
So dumb.
Listen,
Well,
it's cool they're touching a little
RJ, you had
shit.
mentioned Iran, and we have a bit to get into that. But before, a word from our sponsor.
With AI implementation in our ever-growing infrastructure, more and more people are finding ways to implement AI into our daily lives. Bats Bets is piloted by an AI algorithm that determines the best odds for winning by selecting the best lines to give you the edge when it comes to sports betting. Bats Bets is not a sports book or affiliated with any major casinos, but actually a family-driven business whose sole purpose is to consult or recommend how to best use your money when sports betting with sports books or directly at the casino. Think of Bats Bets as a personal assistant, distributing knowledge to better ensure you are hitting every single time you put a bet in. This is the future of sports betting. And with Bats Bets, the odds will always be in your favor. And as always, bet responsibly.
Beautiful. Use code TWM70 to enjoy 70% off your first month subscription. Iran. I prefer to walk personally, but with this, something that's kind of skating by under the radars for, I think, media coverage in general. The whole situation in Iran. We have regime change, or the attempts of it, actively going on right now. Protests spanning the nation. And it's funny because liberals want to cry and say that Trump is fascistic and, a dictator. And then we have a legitimate dictatorial regime who's like, I don't know, cutting off telecom to its citizens so they can't spread information. Yeah, it's crazy. You know, first world problems, right? First world things. We're like, oh my God, Trump's a fascist. Trump's a dictator. And then Iran's like,
Let's show you a dictator.
let me show you something. No more internet for you. It's mind-boggling what's going on over there. And, you know, people are dying. People are dying, as in regime changes and regime protests. People are, in fact, dying. I want RJ to go and take us in.
So, for people who aren't aware of what's been happening in Iran, we're just going to go quickly down the line of
Man
the
for band.
timeline of things. In late December, just before the new year, there were a bunch of protests beginning in Tehran's Grand Bazaar over the currency collapse. And with that, unrest spread to a few I'm
A
trying
few
to say
multiple.
a few multiple. I can't fucking speak. Unrest
A
spread
few.
to a couple cities.
Yeah.
Early in January, protesters started storming regime buildings in the western provinces, and chants shifted to explicit regime overthrow over just strike over the currency. About the second week of January, we started seeing bloody confrontations. Regime has deployed foreign mercenaries, crazy, private military essentially, on their own soil, doing the regime's shit. And they also imposed a nationwide internet blackout. That's why it wasn't heard about super fast. The dictator of Iran, Khamenei, vowed no retreat. Protesters were immediately labeled as terrorists to justify lethal force. There is a little bit of a parallel there.
Tiny parallel. Just actually,
Just a little
it's
bit.
ironic if you think about it. Just
Yeah,
in
it
my
is.
opinion.
Within the third week of January, authorities announced suppression was complete. It wasn't. And total blackout and mass arrests, major unrest, and reported isolated protests. Next day, for some reason, he reiterated his uncompromising stance, labeling them as protesters as foreign agents. You know, echoes of the anti-regime chants were reported through Tehran despite
Imagine
repression.
caring for your country and protesting and stuff like that. And then the dude bro in charge calls you a bunch of foreigners.
For real. And the next day, after they announced total suppression 2 days prior, they announced large-scale arrests and executions for these
There it
detainees.
is. There it is.
Wow.
Yep, there's the
Nightly
whole
anti-regime
dictatorial
chants
shit.
from the nightly anti-regime chants from the rooftops in windows in multiple cities amid undeclared martial law. 3 days later, the UN Security Council, or not the UN, the Supreme Council of National Security in Iran issued a statement admitting 3,000 deaths. Through various citizen reporting, the UN rapporteur estimates higher figures than 20,000. As of right now, unofficial sources are claiming 50 to 80,000 in detained and death tolls. You want to talk about fascism? There's some fucking fascism right there. Near 50 to 80,000 deaths is insane.
It is just and here's another stark contrast. Oscar, go ahead. I think you have something.
It might be similar to what you are about to say. So I don't know if ironic was the word I wanted to use, but it could be still. But I also find it a little bit paradoxical as well. So obviously, as you know, my political alignment and just certain things that I personally believe in.
Retard.
Okay, whatever. But just to piggyback off of what you just said, also, yes, these are the individuals who are, protesting against ICE and whatnot. And you reflect on what's going on in Iran, and then you think about all the liberals, or at least radical liberals, not me, obviously, who side with these individuals who are against Israel and against everything that, we all in America stand for. And then you see this happen.
Well, not all of us. Let's not get carried away,
And then you see this, and then you're like, hold on. We may not be as bad as we thought.
To be even more poignant, right? How many months has there been for riots and protests against ICE. How many people have actually gotten hurt? Not even through just like random roundups and executions, but because these people are fighting ICE officers. 3, maybe.
Renee
And
Good.
this estimation right now is 20,000.
Renee Good was in fact killed. We don't want to take that
She
away,
was?
right? Yeah, she was dead. She died. But
Imagine dying in a Honda.
was she labeled a foreign agent? Was she labeled a terrorist to our nation? No, she was an American who died. I mean, and Trump didn't go out labeling the Minnesota protesters as foreign
Right.
agents or
And then,
terrorists.
Trump is not ordering the FBI to round these people up to then
Correct.
kill them later.
Correct.
Because Trump is a dictatorial fascist.
He's such a big old fascie. Oh my God. This is such a strong parallel that I think people will just overlook. And then
like
another
that pet
point I
name,
wanted
by the
to
way. I don't like that pet name. Fasci.
Another point I wanted to look into before I forget was, this thing was like very underlooked. I think when RJ mentioned it to me, I looked at him, or I told him, I was like, I don't know any of this that is happening. He goes, yeah, have you not been keeping up? I'm like, nah. And I think that's crazy that not a lot of people actually know about it. I think the last time I heard about something happening within a foreign nation, including with executions and genocides, was that African nation that was going through a regime change, if I'm not mistaken, and had a whole
South
list of
Africa
massacres.
was just going through racism.
It's not even racism. It's, racism and religious persecution. Christians were being massacred by the hundreds.
Damn, I guess America's horrible. I guess we're really just a
that's
dictatorial
so bad.
state. I didn't realize that. Oh my
Nathan, you
God.
got something for me?
One quick point. You had a bit of a snark in your voice when you said, like, the regime labeled its own citizens as, foreign actors. But I just want to point out that you can influence citizens from foreign powers to do your bidding. We try to do it all the time. The Soviets were a lot better at it than we ever were. The Chinese are pretty good at it. So, I mean, I'm just saying, if we're gonna get, if the liberals are gonna get in such an uproar or tizzy about, so and so Russia collusion, so to speak, right? Why can't we get mad about APAC? Is that not also an influence operation of some kind? So, like, I don't hear like Khomeini say stuff like that and think, what a nutcase. I mean, frankly, it would be surprising if the State Department and the CIA did not try to influence politics out there in that region on behalf of Saudi Arabia or Israel or ourselves, if there was such a reason to do so.
I
So I think
well said.
we'll spin back to the timeline here real quick. About a week ago, Iran publicly admitted to protests in over 400 cities. Nationwide, nearly every single city, major city in Iran. And what Khomeini usually does is he visits the Jamkaran Mosque in Qom, often before major decisions. It's been seen before. And a few EU member states, including France and Spain, has designated the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist group. They're the ones mainly carrying out these executions. And the former prime minister of Iran issued a statement declaring enough is enough, the game is over, condemning this and calling for Khomeini to step down. And something I recently discovered that's not in this research sheet is decision-making circles in the U.S. have moved past diplomacy with Iran, viewing military action as effectively decided with only the timing still under debate.
So we're going back again.
We're going back
so
again,
great.
boys.
It's like
back to the sandbox.
It's like going to the same pinball machine in the same bar for the past 20 years. Oh my God, please let it end.
Does it eat your quarters, man?
Oh my God.
Reportedly, we're waiting for a strike on a state nearby to allow for larger strikes on the regime.
Interesting. Folks, we're gonna might get a little. Anybody else? Anything else on Iran, gentlemen? Anything else? We think?
Well, the regime has accused U.S. and Israel and others backing unrest, and counterclaims suggest that CIA Mossad engineered riots.
Okay, hold on. Now I'm raising my hand. Hold on. So now we're contradicting. Now we're being hypocrites, because that's how it feels, right? Like, it's not, you don't see the parallel there, like Palestine and Israel, how we're like, Palestine's backing unrest in America, and now all of a sudden Iran's condemning that we're backing unrest in Iran. You don't see the parallel there, like, oh, this is so nice. Everyone has Palestine support. We're getting exactly everything we wanted. They're all falling into our little mouse trap in the little mouse hole. And then when it's happening to them over there, it's like, you stop over there. You stop getting mean with me and telling my people to get mad at me for the way I do things. You stop it. Stop telling them I'm fashy. That's how it feels. Oh yeah, I dropped it again. I don't care. I hate the hypocrisy in that. I really do. That's annoying to me.
Used to it, pal. It's a feature.
It's a feature, not a bug.
Speaking of hypocrisy and just flat out lying to the people for their own political gain, everyone at this point has heard of Alex Preti. If you haven't, welcome out of that rock. The year is 2026. It's the end of January, almost February. So Alex Jeffrey Preti was a 37-year-old U.S. citizen, an intensive care nurse at the Minneapolis VA Medical Center. Oh, wow. He was a VA person. That's cool. He was fatally shot by U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents on January 24th, 2026, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The incident occurred during Operation Metro Surge. That's like a cool Call of Duty map. A federal immigration enforcement action. Preti, who had no significant criminal record and held a permit to carry a concealed handgun, was observing and recording agents as they interacted with protesters. Videos show him stepping in to assist a woman who had been pushed to the ground by an agent, after which he was pepper sprayed, tackled, and beaten. Agents discovered his holstered gun during the struggle, removed it, but 2 officers fired 10 shots in over 5 seconds, while Preti was restrained and posed no immediate threat. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Initial statements from DHS security Christy Noem claim Preti approached agents with a handgun intent on inflicting maximum damage and killing law enforcement. However, forensic video analyses by outlets like ABC News, The New York Times, and CNN contradict this, showing Preti did not draw his weapon or make threatening moves. Preti had a prior altercation with federal agents on January 13, 2026, where he kicked out a taillight of an unmarked vehicle, shouted expletives, and was tackled, suffering a broken rib. Sources indicate federal officials may have been tracking protesters, including Preti. This was the second fatal shooting of a U.S. citizen by federal agents in Minneapolis that month, following the death of Renee Good on January 7th. The U.S. Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division launched an investigation into Preti's death, but not Good's, on January 30th, 2026. Preti's family described him as kind, outdoorsy, and heroic in his final act of helping someone, condemning disgusting lies from officials. Nursing organizations like the American Nurse Association and AACN expressed condolences and denounced the killing. False claims circulated, such as Preti being fired for inappropriate behavior, but fact checks confirmed he was employed at the VA with a clean record. The rumor stemmed from misinformation about a different hospital. Information about a different hospital. Okay. So that was collected from Wikipedia, ABC News, PBS News, New York Times, BBC News, and CNN. We have a bit of an issue here. All right. Bad. I would say this would be like the first case where this might be a bad shoot. Okay, this is a bad shoot. However, folks, around and find out. Stop it. Go home. You're a nurse. Go to work. What are you doing? What are you doing there? Stop virtue signaling. No one there's gonna marry you. Go home. You apparently did he have a family? You have a family? Did he have a family? Let's see. Because if he had a family, he's even more of an ass. Go home. Stop playing this whole night. No one cares. Go home. Do your job. This can all be avoided if these people just went on with their lives. Just go on with your life. Here's this. There's a picture circulating around. It would appear that some of the news outlets kind of thought that Preti might not be that handsome. And so right now there's this video, like, going back and forth, right, between a picture he had from like officially taken by a hospital and then a picture that looks like it was doctored with AI. Have you guys seen that?
Yep.
Yeah.
No.
How disrespectful is it to the person to doctor them with AI?
Well, he's
Go
not
ahead and
attractive,
pull it
so
up.
women
Pull
won't
it
feel
up.
bad about
Pull it up,
if
Nathan.
he's not attractive.
Stream it, Nathan.
Oh, sure,
Wait, so
sure.
they used AI to make him appear unattractive?
No. They used
find
AI to enhance his visage. They used AI to make him look better.
What?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hold on.
Yeah, just wait.
Why'd they do that?
Why?
Yeah.
Because it's called martyrdom, my friend.
Okay.
You have to have pretty heroes. You have to
he
have
was
pretty
he was a
martyrs.
martyr before I saw his doctored photo, which I
he's
still
not a
haven't seen.
good-looking martyr. Women won't
He's not
feel
a good-
that.
You
I
don't want to
care,
put that.
Nathan.
They're not gonna. They were like, we can't put this guy on a shirt.
My God, don't piss me off. I want to see the photo now. Let me see the photo.
Hold on, I'm getting it.
Oh, you're getting it.
You have to just
Yeah,
press
yeah,
like
I'm
two
getting it.
buttons. It's
By the
share
way, I want to
screen.
point out for the record, the Operation Metro, what was it?
Urban
Surge.
What was that? Surge?
Metro Surge.
Metro
Metro Surge.
Surge.
It is not, in fact, the best sounding ICE operation. The best one is currently ongoing in Maine right now. It's called Operation, what was it? Catch of the Day.
Operation Catch.
Wow.
Of the Day.
Okay.
That's actually pretty peak.
No.
I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie.
We just talked
Right,
about
let's
how
see.
disrespectful it is to doctor this guy's photo, and now you'd be disrespectful to everyone else with this name.
What the?
All right, you guys seeing this?
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, so I imagine this must be like a picture. Some of us have been in the military, so like this must be like a wall of staff members,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I think he might have been like a shift lead or something, a
Mhm.
shift supervisor. So here's his picture.
They
That's what they-
completely altered.
Yeah. Like
Just
they widened his
completely-
face, they flushed out his skin tone.
They tanned him.
They
And they
muscle
fleshed
him
out
up.
his face.
They muscle
gave
him
him
You
up.
know,
muscles.
I can't tell if that's the angle of the phone photograph and then this scan.
Well, no, the second one is just output. That's just output from an AI.
They changed his head size.
What was that
This is-
prompt? What was that prompt? Hey, can you make this
Make
guy?
it ready. Make my picture Bumble ready.
Yeah, make it Bumble ready. That's just personally to me, that's gross. That's gross. To have something happen to an individual, regardless of the context, okay, and then put his ass through AI, so that way you have a nicer picture of him. That's not him. Then it's not him.
I'd like, for the record, to say two other things about this very simply. One, I do not care if this was a bad shoot, as in the cops accidentally discharged or the P3 discharged on its own, which is hilariously possible because both parties were using P320s. So, you Sig, just got to rub that one in. But on
Yeah.
a slightly more serious note, I have no sympathy for people who, and for the record, I hate cops. I really do. But if you're trying to tell me that my civil liberties to carry a weapon and use that weapon in self-defense actually also include being able to roll on the ground with federal agents, I have some news for you. I don't believe you, especially because this is coming from the same crowd who have been trying to disarm me and turn me into a felon in at least half of the states of this country for like as long as I've been alive. Go f yourselves.
Oh, we're gonna have this breakdown. If you guys are squeamish, shit, stop it. Okay, get some help. We're gonna go and get this. I'll get it for you. I'm gonna get this video.
You are
Video?
doing that. I'm gonna add some perfect because here.
Shit, what's this?
Why is he in the road? It would seem that dude bro who shot first saw the guy's hand and because so much shit was going on, thought it was Preti's.
I've seen
So
other points of view.
so dumb.
It is dumb. It's very unfortunate and was very preventable by just going the home.
Yeah, yeah.
But
All those people can avoid issues if they go home. If they are here's this, folks. You all have all this time to protest. Go to work. Go to work. I'm sorry. I would love the FBI to be able to scrounge up all your guys' video data and be like, okay, you can vote. You can vote. You can vote. You can vote. What do? You don't
Oh,
contribute
well,
to society.
that's
It's
crazy.
mind-boggling that everyone has all this time to apparently not go to work. They have all this time to go wander around the streets and shout at people doing their job, hilariously enough, doing their job. Again, folks, hey guys, go home. Go home. Avoid all this mess.
I've seen another point of view from the street where you can see the agent disarm him and they put it in super slow motion, and what it looks like is a negligent discharge into the asphalt, and then the shots ring out. So
Right.
there's ways that we can look at this. There's multiple ways. At the end of the day, though, it's unfortunate and preventable. Rest in peace, him. But go home. I
Yeah,
mean, go to work. Go home. You've got hobbies. Everybody needs hobbies.
exactly. Go ahead and
Pick up wood carving.
Nathan, you had something?
No, no, that was basically my feelings on it. I think until we get like the full dissertation of what happens from whoever's going to publish such a thing, the real problem is Americans do not understand the speed of violence. It's never visited most of them. They don't get it. They don't understand that at any minute, any moment, no matter how many people are tackling you, you could have another gun on you. You could have a knife. There are so many ways that you can hurt people. Americans just don't get that. They don't understand force. So
Yeah.
I lack a lot of sympathy for this poor decision maker. I'm not exactly thrilled that this psychological pressure has been shaping the president's decisions on removing Greg Bovino from the field. The whole thing is just I don't know. It's the biggest nothing burger that actually has substance to it somehow, and it's just I don't know. It fills me with dread for for like the future of the country. Like to do something so simple and easy is so difficult for some reason. I don't know. Just completely distraught.
Oscar.
Finding the right words to say, and I think the best way to say it is the conversation I had with RJ last night. Society is currently ever changing, and I think right now the American people, they believe that the only way to incite change and to express outrage is through violence, through force, through anger, through hate. And when you try to incite change this way, it only breeds chaos or conflict. And I think that has been clearly evident through the past couple of years, actually. This goes back to BLM. It goes to, how do I say it, Kyle Rittenhouse. It goes so much farther into the recent decade for everything that we've tried to fight for that we thought was right. And what good has it really done other than cause damages, deaths, destruction, millions of dollars in damages? It just causes, how do I say this, division, further and further division. Now, when Charlie Kirk passed away, I had hoped that unification would start to take effect, but this was not the case. In fact, division grew further. And this was not just through the American people, but this was even in the young conservative party. And what happened with Preti, I don't know. My own opinion on it is it's up. I think that just by watching that video, I completely disregard any thoughts and opinions of it being ND or anything. I think it was genuine murder. It just looked so blatant. There's nothing you can argue about it. That guy deserves to be tried, investigated, put in prison. The other officers, you know, you can probably make some argument that they were just kind of like bewildered by the moment. Can't really totally blame them. Hell, I could imagine that after the aftermath probably went a little bit like this. What the have we done? And that's what I would be saying to myself. I'd be like, what have I done? It wouldn't be, we got him. We got the son of a bitch. It'd be, what have we done? And it takes a dent to what we are trying to do, or that ICE is trying to do. That ICE is trying to make the country a better place by removing these illegal immigrants and, make the American streets safer. But after what happened with Preti, ICE now takes a dent. It goes, okay, does ICE need to be abolished? Does reform need to happen? I certainly don't think it needs to be abolished. We need immigration control. We need it. But reform needs to happen. That individual pulled out his weapon just because he saw that this guy had a weapon, even though both of his arms were restrained. He just goes, oh, let me pull out my Switch. Let me pull out my Nintendo Switch, aim it at his asshole, at his back or whatnot. Like where did that
No,
premonition come from? Where did that incentive come from that you had to pull out your weapon because it was perfectly
well,
fine in
somebody
the
else
store?
was grabbing the gun. I think that sort of elicited the response. I think
What?
they thought that Preti was reaching for the gun, and
So
that they
if
weren't paying attention because there was too many chiefs and not enough Indians. There was what 6, 7 people around that guy at the same time, all reaching around, grabbing stuff. Bad. It's bad. And the only thing that we can hope is that with that investigation that's going to be happening, we see some sort of outcome and further details on that, which we'll keep an eye out for a later episode.
it honestly feels like that the ICE agents handling that situation, and I don't care if this is disrespectful, feels like they're kindergartners, like they're genuine brain rotted children You're supposed to be trained professionals. You're supposed to be federal agents, and you're supposed to handle these kind of situations. How do you get
I think it's interesting how they look like they just woke up and put on like a fit
Yeah,
or
right?
like a plate carrier and walked out of the
Right?
house.
Like, who
It's really
are you?
strange.
Are you the Proud Boys? Are you like some form of militia? No, you're ICE. You're ICE. And you have one damn job. One. And you don't that up. And they
Yeah,
did.
it's really
They
strange.
it up. And now they it up for everybody. And that's just how it's going to be. And this will only get worse. And if
We're
it
about to leave.
continues to get worse, we're going to get more chaos. And when there's chaos, there's more death. And with death, it's either sacrifice, martyrdom, or just plain murder. And it just continues from there. These protests will get more aggressive. I've been seeing it. I've been seeing the call to arms kind of thing. Call to arms, not really arming, but you know what I mean? Like just finding
There-
ways to arise, what's the word? Like just numbers.
There are legitimate call to arms
Yeah.
within the left. They want violence.
Yeah.
They want to be martyrs. They want violence. They want
find
to
any
kill
reason.
people.
Well,
Yeah.
true,
And
but
that may
happened
be
with Charlie Kirk as
the
well.
extreme left. That may be the far left. But there are legitimate calls to violence within the far left in Minnesota.
And when
They
Kirk
want
passed,
violence.
there was a call to
there
arms
was
as
calls
well.
for violence from Christine or Nancy Waters or whatever her name is. She looks like an old Louis Vuitton bag. She was calling, push back against Republicans, meet them in the streets, don't let them be comfortable, get out there and fight back. We've had a very, very, very bad history of letting Democrat Congresspeople, and it's only Democrat Congresspeople, unironically incite violence against a certain political party.
We got the same thing when Kirk passed, even from the Republican side of things. There was a call to arms there. I, at least, an admirer of Kirk, saw that Kirk had a mission. He had a vision for what he wanted to use his platform for, right? He would never have wished a call to arms at the expense of his death. Kirk's dead. Let's meet at the streets and shoot up these Dems. Like, no, that's not what he wanted. And I would argue that even after the call to arms, nothing really expanded upon that. But again, this goes right back to the point I'm making. If you want to incite change, this is not the way to do it. I agree with you guys that if Preti there's nothing wrong with protesting, okay? But if you're gonna protest, there's a certain way to do it to incite change
Here's this.
without
Do you know
chaos.
what I see oftentimes when I'm driving through certain cities? I see actual protest. You know what those are? People standing on the side of the road with signs.
Mhm.
That is a protest. We apparently have been consistently not properly representing what people are actually doing out there. I'm sorry. If you are walking up to federal agents or anybody and grabbing other people and touching, it is no longer a protest. It is no longer a protest.
It's a brawl.
It is a melee.
A riot.
It is now physical. A protest is words and signs. That's all they are. Any other action beyond that and is getting closer and closer to that riot, getting closer and closer to a melee. We need to be precise in our language. All these videos we see, that wasn't a protest. Preti wasn't part of a protest. He was actively going around, walking around the street, walking up to federal agents. Like, again, personal responsibility, right? But we cannot be sitting here and calling these things protests when that person was in the shit mix. You know what? It would be a different case entirely, and everyone would be on board if Preti was a guy just standing on the side of the road with a sign, saw a woman get pushed over, walked over to help her up. But no, he wasn't. He was walking around the street, getting into people's business, doing all these things. So he can't be surprised when people find out. Nathan.
I just want to point out one more thing. For the last 30 years, there have been multiple libertarian, Tea Party, and Republican, and far right protests and demonstrations done in full color of the law and simultaneously being armed, like open carry, rifles, shotguns, the whole like enchilada. How many casualties have there been at any of these pro 2A or pro 2A adjacent demos?
I
How
would
many?
say January 6th is a good one. I don't know if
One
there's a
person.
yeah.
Yeah, and she wasn't armed. So, that's,
No,
that.
violence like this is recently a very
Precedented.
left kind of phenomenon. Political violence is very much a left sort of phenomenon. Go ahead, RJ.
I'd like to branch into something based on what we've been going on. There's two major things I want to cover here. There is a renowned protester. A lot of people won't have heard of him. His name's Scott Libido. He has spent most of his life protesting things. One of the key things that I've heard from him is when you go to these protests, obviously we have a right to lawful assembly and to protest what the government does, right? You are still crossing a line there. You are crossing a line when you are doing that. You are putting yourself in a space that you are not normally in. That space may or may not be hostile. You don't know what the cops have been through. You don't know what, these agents are going through. They might have had a shitty day. That doesn't excuse their actions, but they might have had a shitty day. You know what you don't do when these cops have had a shitty day and they want to put you on the ground and put you in handcuffs? Resist. You don't resist. You comply. You go spend the jail in jail for a night and you go home with your life. And another thing I'd like to cover, these protests and riots are not happening in this scale anywhere else in the country. Anywhere else. There's been massive fraud uncovered in Minneapolis and in Minnesota, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think these things are happening? And something I read the other day on Twitter from a supposed formal special forces warrant officer who did counterinsurgency ops, right? He's seen these things up close. He's seen how these low-level insurgency structures are formatted, right? Signal groups at 1,000 member cap, right? Dedicated roles that they've decided, right? You've got mobile chasers. You've got people checking plates and logging vehicle data into databases. You've got people running dispatch nodes to divert assets for these ICE agents to delay them, right? You've got Salute style reporting, size, activity, location, unit, time, equipment on suspected federal vehicles. Daily chat rotations, time deletions to frustrate forensic recovery. They vet new members that want to join.
Okay.
They're getting mutual aid from sympathetic locals, right?
They're not protesters at
Possible.
all.
They're
Yeah,
not protesters.
it's a
These are
low level
operatives.
insurgency.
You have
These are operatives. These are rebellion. This is a rebellion.
It's a low
this
level
isn't just spontaneous outrage, right? They have command and control with redundancy. They have OPSEC hygiene, task organization, right? Replace ICE agents with occupying coalition forces from anything that happened in the sandbox in the mid 2000s. You're seeing early stage urban insurgency right now in Minnesota. That's what you're seeing. If you think anything otherwise, you are uneducated and you should educate yourself on this topic because you are wrong. You are wrong. Look, I support every right to protest things. I support, wanting reform within the government. I think there's a lot of things that need to change in the government. I'll say it again. This is insurgency in its beginnings.
These aren't protests.
We are doxing federal officers. You are chasing people in vehicles. You are stopping them in the road and you are demanding they show you their papers, right? Your driver's license, right? Prove that you are not a federal agent.
Prove
You
your
know what that
press.
sounds like? You know what that sounds like? Fascism, right?
Ironic.
These people are staying organized, right? We don't want escalation. People on the right, people in the center, people on the very small leaning left edge don't want escalation. You know who wants this escalation? The people who are trying to deflect from the fraud in Minnesota. This is organized rebellion, treason in Minnesota. I'm sorry if you think otherwise, but you need to educate yourself because this is wrong. People have spent years fighting against this sort of thing so that we don't have organized rebellion on our soil. And it is happening right now. And if you think it's not organized rebellion, you're wrong. I'm sorry.
Last closing thoughts from Oscar.
I think RJ has a valid point, but I'm going to ask you guys to do something impossible with me. You're going to put yourselves in my liberal shoes for 2 seconds. You're going to look at this. Get ready with me for an emotional perspective. Stay with me. These are humans expressing their humanity and their own morality. And how they're doing it, they think it is the right way to incite change. I think, as you said, you're reading from another protester, someone who's been doing this for years. How about we reflect on history? What I talked to you about last night, RJ. You have 2 different types of civil rights leaders. One of them, he's probably not a good guy. And the other guy, we paint him to be this really good guy, but he's also still a pretty bad guy. But one of them did the right way of protesting, and the other one did their own right way of protesting. And we know them to be Malcolm X and MLK, right? MLK believed in the peaceful, nonviolent form of protesting. Malcolm X believed in the latter, right? And I think with this social structure and society change, a lot of people are starting to believe that the Malcolm X method is the only method to incite change, that it is the only real method to get the change you want, which is violence, outrage, causing damage, this, that, and the other. And it's crazy to see what they're doing in Minnesota. It is. I kind of agree with you that they could be definitely trying to point everything in a different direction so they don't see what's actually happening in Minneapolis, that they're just trying to divert their attention away from it. I think that's very plausible. I think a lot more plausible than most things. But again, there's better ways to do this, and everyone seems to be doing it the wrong way. And trust me, the right way, technically, if you want to be subjective, there's no right or wrong way to do it, right?
No, there is.
But
No, there is.
everyone's opinions are different on what they believe is right and what they believe is wrong. Now, I know that's crazy because there's always this fine gray area with morality.
As far as like protesting is concerned, there is definitely a sort of structural guideline that you go for when you're protesting. Side of the road, out of the way, not impeding, signs.
Someone might view it differently.
Bam. Yeah. And what our biggest issue is we need to have first off, all these government officials who are inciting these actions and stuff should be arrested and charged with the crime that they are committing. And reminding people what protests actually are.
So martial law on
No.
every. So
No.
what are you implying?
Not a martial law.
Just
No.
regular law.
Protesting. Gather
No, just regular law.
with a
So now
sign
we
off
need to
the
create,
road.
like, concrete laws, strict laws on what protesting is supposed to be. Is that
There
what
already
you
There
mean?
is. There's
Yeah.
already is. There's guidelines on what those
Okay.
are.
Then these
If a
guys,
gathering becomes
There's many- there's- in fact-
non-peaceful, it's deemed a riot.
then individuals
there's
need
even
to be educated
cities-
on it.
There are cities in America where if you want to do a public demonstration, the local municipal council demands that you fill out an application for
You have to get a
approval,
permit.
which on the face of itself is unconstitutional, but it is accepted practice in a lot of the country. So
Yeah.
there's lots of laws governing this sort of activity
Mhm.
Yeah.
already.
And so we need people to understand that you're standing in streets, not a protest. You're now interfering with the normal activities. And here's the thing, protesting is not supposed to interfere with normal activities in the local area. People are standing in highways, people are standing in roads, people are doing all these things. All those things are very much riotous behavior. That's not protesting. And yes, we'll blame it on them being misinformed that this is acceptable and this is not what it is, which is just rioting. Standing in roads and impeding traffic, people trying to just take their kids to school or go get groceries, you're rioting. You're rioting. You're not protesting
I
anymore.
think misinformed is a very nice way of putting it. You can just call them idiots if I'm being fair with you. Like it's definitely wrong. I agree, at least just from my own morality. I'm not trying to put myself in other people's shoes. My own perspective is it's inherently wrong. And I understand that the right way of doing it, and I'm going to put quotations for the sake of anyone who might disagree with me, right? The right way is the long way. It is the hard way. It will incite change at the slowest rate, but at least you'll be doing it as the better man, as the bigger man. And it also will probably involve sacrifice. Sacrifice is always involved when it comes to this kind of stuff, right? But at least it won't be because it won't be a Preti situation or a Renee Good situation. It'd be something else entirely, something that people can rally behind instead of divide upon. And I think that's something we can hope to, God, I don't want to say that because that's horrible. But I think the best way that American can actually unify is when we can all rally behind something we all agree on. And right now, it doesn't feel like that we're at that point in
Well,
time.
yeah, I agree. That's because the powers that be don't want you to agree on anything
As RJ
because
put it, the two-party
The-
system.
they
is inherently flawed.
thrive
Yeah.
on division.
Yeah. And I know that's a shitty thing to say, but it's the truth, unfortunately.
We'll go ahead
It's not a
and
shitty thing.
wrap
It's the
up
truth.
there, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us on episode 67 of the whole magazine. Thank you to the production team for whipping this episode together. Don't forget, check out the sponsor of today's episode. That's Bats Bets. Use that code. Get 70% off your first month on batsbets.com. Of course, you can also check out the website. Check out the website, check out the socials, and all the stuff and things. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. And as always, have a good one.